At 0211, Nina clicked into the sentence neither of them wanted. The report was open in Chrome on the workstation outside 5 West, full screen except for the strip of patient list still visible on the monitor to her left. At the top of the document, beside the title EHR Downtime Event Narrative AL 04-28, 2 circles glowed with initials, NP in mustard, DC in blue. Daniel Cho's cursor sat in the middle of the line under Patient Impact, selecting and unselecting the words Delayed Medication Administration as if he were testing how much of them the document would let him keep. Nina watched the blue highlight appear, vanish, appear again. Around her, the floor had settled into the tired quiet that came after everyone admitted the worst part was over. A printer by the charge desk gave off the hot plastic smell of a machine that had been asked all night to do a job meant for another machine. Someone had left the cap off a marker used to write temporary allergy bans. The alcohol wipe sharpness of it sat over the sweeter smell of stale coffee and warmed milk from the station refrigerator. Down the hall, a telemetry alarm sounded twice and was silenced. On Nina's side of the sentence, the words were still true enough to be dangerous. 2 medication administrations were delayed during the downtime window due to barcode scanning unavailability. Daniel's cursor moved back 3 words and stopped. She could see the little blue name tag above it, Daniel, then only the line again when the tag faded. She had met him once in a WebEx with 12 people, his camera off and his voice thinner than she expected. Mostly she knew him as blue insertions, blue comments, blue suggestion boxes hinged in the right margin like small hard doors. They had spent the last 9 months inside the same shared documents without ever getting much better at hello. After any incident worth naming, he built the shell of the report from Oakland, and she filled it from the hospital in San Jose or Redwood City or wherever the outage had chosen to become local that week. The blue cursor moved. New words arrived in their place, letter by letter at first, and then, for half a second, all at once where the network must have caught up to itself. Medication administration times for 2 patients were not aligned with original scheduled times during the downtime window due to barcode scanning unavailability. The sentence lengthened, cooled, and became less recognizable. Nina put 2 fingers on the trackpad and restored the original line. She did not use suggesting mode. At this hour, with Dawn 4 hours off and the report due to administration at 6, neither of them had patience for a forest of green and blue balloons explaining what the page itself could show. On the line above, under Systems Affected, the timeline still held. Medication administration record unavailable to inpatient nursing units from 2043 to 2216. Read-only chart review intermittently available. Label printers on 5 West and 3 South required manual restart after service restoration. That part had gone cleanly because machines were easier. Nina had the exact minute the MR froze on 3 units, each screen stuck on the same pale reconnecting banner before dropping back to login. She had the time the interface team confirmed the database failover had stalled, the ticket number from infrastructure, the minute she watched the wristband printer outside 5 West come back with its first crooked half page. Then, what resisted both of them was not the sequence but the body of it. What to call the hour and 33 minutes when nurses pulled morning meds late because the barcode scanners gave one flat error tone and then nowhere to look. What to do with the near miss in 3 South where a float nurse caught a wrong dose heparin order on paper before it reached the patient, after 20 minutes of hunting a clean printout in a unit that had run out of labels. Nina clicked into Patient Impact and wrote. 1 near-miss medication variance was intercepted during paper MR use before reaching the patient. No documented patient injury occurred. The cursor blinked at the end of occurred. Blue came down from the top of the page in 3 quick jumps. Daniel selected near-miss medication variance. He replaced it with potential medication discrepancy. Nina changed it back. He did not fight that one immediately. His cursor slid to the end of the sentence and sat there. She pictured him where he usually seemed to be when they did this. The dining table in his apartment, overhead fixture too bright. Sleeves rolled once, 1 legal pad open to the left of the keyboard with names and times stacked in a narrow hand. She knew this because once, weeks ago, he had accidentally pasted a line from his own notes into a draft before deleting it. Call Lena re-witness statement. Another time his cursor had drifted to the top margin and stayed there long enough for her to imagine him washing a mug. Her own workstation reflected her back at her in pieces, hair clipped up with a plastic claw she had found in her bag before shift start. Badge lanyard twisted once around her neck. The disposable isolation gown she'd worn during the outage was knotted over the back of her chair, pale yellow and damp at the ties. Her wrists smelled faintly of the adhesive from label stock. She had run between units restarting printers, showing nurses where the downtime packet lived in the shared drive, writing patient names on temporary labels when the wristbands came out with the names faint and the barcodes split. At 21:07 she had stood beside Joe from 5 West while Joe wrote medication times on blue tape and stuck them to syringes because there was nowhere else to put them. That part of the night would not enter the report, or not in its proper shape. A comment bubble opened on the right margin beside Nina's sentence. Can we substantiate near-miss medication variance from submitted event report, or do we need potential discrepancy identified and corrected prior to administration? No greeting. No softener. Just the question, exact in his way. Nina knew why he asked it. In January, a rehab unit had written missed dose in an incident narrative and spent 3 weeks unwinding the phrase after audit logs showed the medication had gone late, not missing. Daniel had been the one copying legal on the follow-up. Nina highlighted no documented patient injury occurred and started to type a reply, then stopped. She deleted the half line and answered in the sentence itself instead. One near-miss medication variance was intercepted during paper MR use before reaching the patient. No patient received incorrect medication. The blue cursor came to rest in front of no patient. Nothing happened for 8 seconds. 9. On another floor, someone laughed once too hard. The laugh cut off quickly. The printer at the desk exhaled one sheet and fell quiet again. Daniel began typing at the start of the sentence. No patient received incorrect medication as a result of the downtime event. He left it there. Nina watched the words sit under his blue cursor, plain and almost usable. She waited for the familiar retreat. It did not come immediately. The cursor stayed at the end of event, blinking. In the document, his silence was harder to mistake than it would have been on a call. The insertion point held. His blue dot stayed lit at the top right. He was still in the sentence. Then the words changed. No patient harm attributable to the downtime event has been identified at time of review. There he was. Nina rested the heel of her hand on the desk and looked at the sentence until the letters lost shape. She did not think he was wrong exactly. By dawn, that was what the report had to survive as. Scrutiny by nursing leadership, legal, compliance, the vice president who would want something concise enough to absorb between two other bad things. She kept her cursor on the period at the end of attributable long enough that she knew, watching her own little mustard tag fade and reappear, that he was watching her not change it. She scrolled up, then back down, because it let her think without appearing to pause. At the top right, his blue circle still carried a green dot. Active now. Nina opened the version history panel for half a second and closed it. She did that sometimes when she got tired, looked at the thin ladder of saved states on the right, each minute labeled 4 edits, 9 edits. Last edit was seconds ago, just to remind herself the report was not one sentence failing to become another, but a visible pile of small decisions. She clicked back into Patient Impact and typed without asking his permission first. During downtime, nursing staff used paper MR workflow and handwritten timing labels to continue medication administration. One heparin dose discrepancy was identified during manual review and corrected prior to administration. No documented patient injury occurred. That was closer to the floor. Closer to Joe's blue tape and the hot, useless printer and the nurse on 3 South drawing a line through the wrong dose hard enough to tear the paper. She had first typed blue tape labels and changed it herself before he could see it. Handwritten timing labels would travel better. The rest, Nina knew as soon as she finished, Daniel would not let through unchanged. The blue cursor appeared in the middle of handwritten timing labels and held there. He selected the phrase, released it, selected it again. Nina smiled despite herself. This was another thing she knew about him. If he highlighted the same phrase twice before editing, it meant he was arguing with himself, not with her. Single, clean selection and replacement meant he had already decided. 2 passes meant she still had a chance. She did not move. She let him have the silence. Finally, the comment bubble reopened. Keep this specific and supportable. Need to avoid implying undocumented injury in final sentence. Nina read it twice. She had never heard his voice saying anything like, keep this. Most of what they knew of each other had arrived by subtraction. Which words the other would remove, where they would place a comma to weaken a claim without deleting it, how long they would leave a sentence visible before admitting it could not stay. She answered below his comment. What final sentence can you live with that still means something on the floor? The blue cursor did not answer in the comment. It went back to the body text and entered between the second and third sentences. At time of review, no patient injury related to the downtime event had been identified. Nina looked at it. The sentence was institutional, yes. It was also better than the earlier one, less lacquered. At time of review admitted the hour, related to was legal without sounding bloodless. He had left out attributable, which she disliked on sight. For a moment she considered letting it stand untouched. Then she placed her cursor after identified, added a period she didn't need, deleted it, and typed 3 words at the end instead, in the record. Now the line read, at time of review, no patient injury related to the downtime event had been identified in the record. Blue arrived fast and removed in the record. Mustard put it back. Blue took it out again. Nina typed a comment this time because there was no other place to put the reason. If we don't name the limit, it reads cleaner than the night was. The cursor went still. 30 seconds. Long enough that the collaborators menu at the top briefly hid Daniel from the active list and then returned him when his mouse moved. When he moved, he did not reply in the margin. He went to the sentence and changed 1 word. At time of review, no patient injury related to the downtime event had been identified in available documentation. Nina let out a breath that had been waiting in her ribs. It was bureaucratic. It was also honest in the way reports were honest when 2 careful people had made them so. She accepted it by doing nothing. Below immediate actions taken, she added the rest of the floor's night in short plain lines. Downtime packet activated. Pharmacy notified. Manual label process used until printer recovery. Wrong dose heparin entry caught during paper review prior to administration. Daniel tightened 1 verb, moved 1 timestamp, asked in a comment whether the label printers had failed before or after MR restoration. Their cursors crossed less now. The page had learned their separate lanes. At 0541, the eastern windows at the end of the corridor turned the color of a shell. Nurses started speaking in day shift voices, a little brighter, as if the outage belonged to another building already. Nina could hear someone laughing at the desk over a wristband that had printed upside down. The printer smell had thinned. In the document header, the status changed from saving to all changes saved in Drive. He moved to the first sentence under Patient Impact, the one they had been stalled in when the night was still mostly damage. During downtime, nursing staff used paper MR workflow and handwritten timing labels to continue medication administration. The blue cursor sat there, not editing, only present. At 02:11, when she had first watched him hesitate in that section, she had taken it for caution, or politics, or the ordinary slowness of someone shaping bad facts for people above both their pay grades. Now, with the report almost done and Dawn coming into the hall in strips, the pause looked more like work. Not empty, not only evasive. Nina clicked Submit to route the report to the patient safety queue. The browser gave its small, bloodless confirmation. Response recorded. For a second longer, the two cursors remained in the document, mustard and blue, parked in the same paragraph. Then Daniels disappeared. His circle at the top right went gray and dropped below the active line. Nina sat with the finished report open while the corridor filled with day shift. On the desk beside the keyboard lay a strip of blue tape left over from the night, one end curled on itself, the marker ink on it feathered slightly where a gloved thumb had dragged across still wet numbers. She tore off the clean end and stuck it to the bezel of the monitor, just under the place where his blue cursor had been.